happy starting stream at this hour. Huh. I have finally returned to streaming for a bit. For now. No. Oh, hey, son. I'm not too talkative. I understand that. Hi there. Alright, I'm gonna enjoy a new character creator, I guess, that a lot of people have been trying. I don't know what else to do today. I mean, I've got a lot of games to play. A lot of games to play. Why is the microphone so quiet? Is it just me or is it really quiet? Hello? Hello? Yeah, it's too quiet. That's weird. That's really weird. Why is it so quiet? Hello? Hello? Feels like the audio is too quiet. Like, I'm looking at that, it's like really quiet. What happened to the audio? That's really weird. You can hear me fine? Well, that's good. Okay, I haven't even downloaded it yet. Shame on me. So, have you heard the bad news about Gumroad? I've never used Gumroad before. Like, I knew there was a bunch of VRChat stuff on Gumroad, but I was never, like, interested. Because I would always use, like, Booth for my VRChat avatars. I know some of my friends use that, but they could never make me interested in Gumroad. But anyway, bad news. What the heck? What does this sound? Is there something on the... What the heck? What does that sound? Are you watching a stream on this? What the heck was that sound? What the heck is that? Oh, it's from the wallpaper. It's from desktop wallpaper. Where is it? That's just default off. Hello, Abyssal. So yeah, bad news about Gumroad. Oh, for Final Fantasy 14 mods, really? What kind of mods? Anyway, apparently, due to MasterCard and pressure from MasterCard, they are removing all not safe for work content. And also, PayPal has recently really cracked down on working with companies that provide any sort of not safe for work content. Really disturbing direction things are moving. It's not a good sign at all. Actions recommended, but I don't wanna. Leave me alone. Oh, it's bothering me to set up OneDrive. No. Dismiss. Dismiss. So here we go. Oh, Square Enix publisher. Wait, is the spring sale over? Wow, the spring sale may be over. Darn. Oh, no more games for me. Looks like they're just advertising Horizon. Is that Contra down there? Dragon's Dogma 2. Whoa, $70. $70. I ain't got that right now. I have to wait for another sale to get some other games and what was it, the one? Well, where's the demo? There should be a demo here. Okay, here it is. Character creator. Hope there's user reviews, mostly negative, really. Ouch. Gosh, this alone is going to take 5 gigabytes. User reviews are mostly negative. That's not great. People love the original Dragon's Dogma.
The bell has tolled on the
no.
age of the console.
Oh, okay, it's playing this. I guess I'll watch the video while it's downloading.
The return!
I only played very little of the original Dragon's Dogma, but I never got very far. I know people really like Dragon's Dogma 1, though. Maybe people are just giving it negative reviews because of, like, Denuvo or something. Which, yeah, companies need to stop doing that. Oh, the problem is microtransactions. That makes sense. Stars. Is it even playing? It's like stuck on that. No, it's just on the stars for a while. What's going on here? Is it not playing? It's like been stuck there for a while. That's weird. Well, now it's not playing. It was playing regardless of what I wanted earlier, and now it's like, nope. Now we're not gonna let you watch the video. That is so weird. Well, I guess I'm not watching that video. That's gonna take me like 6 or so minutes. I do want to return to my fantasy mood, but I don't have to choose between fantasy and Sonic. Or fantasy and Sega. Because there's several Sega fantasy games, either on Sega platforms or even developed by Sega. But that being said, that's a pretty limited selection when there's so many games on PC, on Nintendo platforms, on Sony platforms, and Sega platforms. I guess you can kind of throw in Microsoft there, though. That overlaps a lot with PC. Not happy with Nintendo still. Just, I don't know how to deal with my feelings towards Nintendo. I don't know how to deal with these feelings. Let's check this out again. I might play like Dragon's Dogma 1 after I'm done with this, but oh, maybe that's the problem, is it's like not loading the video because it's using all my stuff to download. Where character creator and storage, I mean, where's the main game? Ah, so much for watching the video. Okay, here it is. You know, I feel like the main thing that interests me about tabletop RPGs is like I appreciate fantasy. And the first major tabletop role-playing game, the big influential one, which was once known as Chainmail, is Dungeons and Dragons. And most other tabletop RPGs are also fantasy settings, and I like fantasy a lot, which is why when Julia tried to get me into Sword World, I took to it decently well. It took a while for me to warm up to Sword World, but once she got me going, it's like, yeah, I have a Sword World shaped hole in my Sword World shaped heart. Mostly due to the lore and the desire to play as a healing the succubus character. It's not my only idea for a character, but I've noticed a lot of the story ideas that my brain has come up with over the years share similar features. Um, and the other part is like self-expression. Blood and I don't like the G word. I don't like that stuff. It's not great. Not into that.
At last!
Oh, yeah, it's not gonna play. It's like too busy trying to download the game. My apologies. Well, let's check out these reviews and hope that there's not something terribly offensive there. Japan Game Awards. Huh. Mostly negative. Alright, let's see what the reviews are. Let's putting together compatibility guide for playing this game under Linux Steam Deck. To use various Proton versions. Apparently, each of these counted as an individual PC and triggered de novo. Oh, that. So, yeah, part of the problem is de novo. Doesn't even say it on the list that it uses de novo. These companies need to stop using de novo and punishing paying customers. Like, this just gives people incentive to want to pirate the game. Oh, yeah, while we're here, I'll show you what Sword World is. Julia has fallen out of love with Sword World due to its melee mechanics. Oh, not Sword World. Why? That doesn't need plural. It is basically the D&D of Japan. It is a tabletop RPG. One in which includes Lodos Island. Oh, I keep misspelling sword. I don't know why I want to end up doing that. There's a lot of stuff that I would still like to be involved in. Like, is a self-expression. Because I want to be able to express this character idea I have. Some way or another. I want to be able to express this character idea I have in some way or another. Some way or another. I'm going to put up a chatty link. I am pretty obsessed with my idea for a character, Maria. Not right now. Put a link to the Wikipedia here. But like, I think the two biggest things that would appeal to me in terms of tabletop role playing games is number one, I like the fantasy genre. I like fantasy tropes. I hate the term trope because TV Tropes is a website that I'm pretty angry at, among dozens of others. I will not let go what they did to Latte no Omocha. Lot no Omocha, however it's pronounced. And a lot of other the Purge. I am still unhappy about the Purge. But that aside, I like the quote unquote tropes or the trappings of the fantasy genre. I really, really like fantasy. That is a comfort zone for me. So that's something that appeals to me about tabletop games. And another thing is like self expression, like personal story writing and self expression. I want to role play. I want to like create this character that is in my mind and other characters that are in my mind. in which I've already started, but kind of not gotten very far, and trying to write my own short story of Maria, or as long as it ends up being. I need to work on that. Anyway, while it downloads, I'm gonna be right back in a bit. I need to use the bathroom again. Uh, Basically, stream hasn't truly started, so I'll put this back up. But yeah, that's what it is. He said it's that. There's your link. Okay, I'm back. Gosh, I have a lot on my mind, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to talk about it all. But yeah, Sword World. Sorry I was gone so long. I don't know how to talk about it, but I may end up having to go on bathroom breaks frequently. I'm not gonna go into further detail than that, 'cause that would be too much information. I'll try not to be gone too much, but yeah. I'm gonna write some of this out. I should do more Sword World related streams so all the people who come to my streams can be a little more familiar with what Sword World is. The simple way of putting it is the most famous tabletop role playing game inside of Japan, which is intimately connected to Record of Lodoss War, being owned by the same company and being a campaign location in Sword World 1.0. And Cave Vision for Sword. Yeah, and the character in general, I even like showed y'all like before. I don't know if most people here saw that, but I did have a stream where I just showed off a Google document where I was like trying to write the story. I'm still having the trouble that I'm not a good writer. I don't have experience with creative writing since I was like a teenager. And so I was like a teenager and I would try to write stories. When I was even writing fantasy stories back then and being a huge nerd. Um as a kid I remember my character was like a mage who was loosely based on how much I idolized Rydia from Final Fantasy IV. I gave her like green hair and everything. And I also kind of was inspired by a character from a tabletop game even back then when my cousin tried to get me to play D&D with him. And then I got grounded because my parents were in the very satanic panic phase of, you know, tabletop games are the devil kind of garbage. But I've always been into fantasy. I've always been into this sort of idea of self-expression. I have a few ideas that have sort of oops, wrong thing. I was trying to I really like the lore. I really like some things about Sword World. I think that Julia is understandably miffed about some of the setbacks of specifically melee gameplay on like a mechanical level. I like the lore. I'm a lore fiend. Sometime we could like watch videos where we just watch, hours worth of Dungeons and Dragons lore videos or Pathfinder lore videos or Sword World lore videos or maybe even, Shadowrun lore videos cuz I love myself some fantasy lore. I love fantasy settings. Like one of my most favorite recent anime has been So no Frieren is or just, I call it Frieren for short. A lot of my ideas in my head are often about misunderstood people, groups, or characters. And like ideas in my head. One of them is about one of them is actually not a fantasy setting. It is a science fiction cyberpunk-esque setting, which is probably my most controversial idea. Which I talked to Julie earlier. It's my idea, which for some reason I settled upon the name Crisis Skies, but that's just a working name. And the reason I called it Crisis Skies was because I imagine this sort of thing could end up in I imagined when I like brained this in my head and thought about it, what would eventually lead to when I started thinking about like silly grandiose Gundam style wars over bodily autonomy and stuff. Crisis Skies, like why Crisis Skies? Because my brain Gundammed the whole thing, turned it into a. I was playing a lot of shoot 'em ups at the time. And so my brain was like, "Yeah, Crisis in the Sky, shoot 'em up style game." Is why I came up with that. I was like, "Yeah, I'll turn it into a shoot 'em up with a story." And that's why Crisis Skies. Um, but that was gonna be a cyberpunk game about bodily autonomy or story about bodily autonomy. Another one is about Maria. I thought about several ideas over the years. All of these are like related to like personal like pains or wrestling with certain ideas. Oh my gosh, how is it going to take that long? Why is it so slow? What the heck? It's going to take forever to download this rate. Well, I guess I got plenty of time to talk. Um, but I've always been into things that are considered fantasy, things that toe the line between what some people consider fiction and some people consider real. Like do you I enjoy demons and angels in a very mythological, fantasy, fictional sense, but for a lot of people, demons and angels are real. And like for me, fairies are very much real, and I am a fairy. But for other people, like, what? Fairies aren't real. Elves aren't real. I like elves and I like fairies. But, those sorts of things don't really fit into the very. Really, fairies are pretty similar to the idea of both angels and demons in like a fantasy sense. But, most of those things were kind of crushed into fitting into one concept or the other since more imaginative and diverse spiritual ideas were kind of like crushed into the narrow box of it's either an angel or it's a demon, which angels and demons are cool, fantasy races. They're they're very limiting if you're gonna allow those to be the only, you know. No offense to Christianity, but crushing every single spiritual creature into just being an angel or a demon is actually pretty boring. Subpar fantasy writing. Gonna have to give the Bible a 4 out of 10 on that front. I gotta have to give the Bible a 4 out of 10 as a piece of fantasy. Not very imaginative, kind of boring on the fantasy races front. 4 out of 10's the best I can do for that fantasy novel. But yeah, fantasy has always towed the line between mythology or religion or imagination. And I like the beauty of the old and the beauty of the new. The beauty of the old being things like, you know, what if angels were real? What if elves were real? What if all these things were real? What if Satan was actually real? That sort of like thought process. Um and then there's like the romanticism of the future. Oftentimes it's not romantic cuz like cyberpunk is pretty dark. But but I enjoy the beauty of both. There's a lot of hope for the future and future technology to the point that sci-fi is often kind of like its own fantasy based in science and what science and technology are capable of. Whereas like fantasy is kind of like the romanticization of the old. It's like, what is great about the old and what is great about the new? What is great about the ancients and what is great about the future and the far flung future? And I appreciate both. I also like a mixture of both. There's definitely fantasy elements and, science fiction about robots like Mega Man. Mega Man is a huge influence to me, so is Ghost in the Shell. But I also really I like both. I feel connected to nature and to like ancient stories and ideas and tales, even if I like to approach them in my own personal way that isn't limited to what some people might consider heresy. I've been really into Christian mythology recently, but also from the perspective of like demons are pretty cool. um which is quite heretical, which is more than a little bit heretical, because it's like I'm appreciating angels, but I'm also appreciating, demons just as much as angels. The same is true of like robots. I really like robots as well. My fellow robots. I like elves. I like yokai. I like stories about kami and like tree spirits. I like, fairy creatures other than just pixies. I like, Nekomata characters, Bake Neko. I like this sort of feeling that feels grounded in the spirituality of ancient peoples, which I think is part of the appeal of fantasy. It's sort of the romanticization and spiritualization of nature and of ancient peoples and of ancient ideas. It feels like it's grounded on a bedrock of our ancestors, is what fantasy is. Which is why I like that sort of thing. I like fiction that is grounded in mythology and spirituality, which is something I really like about fantasy. It's like, you know, you may be like, I may be like playing I may be playing like Disgaea, which is about like angels and demons. It's like, it's grounded in the fantasy of what if demons were actually real? What if hell was actually real? What if heaven was actually real? And then kind of goes on from there. God, I'm just gonna earn myself some unfollows doing that. Um, and like J.R.R. Tolkien's like an exploration of what if elves were real and things like that. And then stories about like Mega Man or stories about like what if very very conscious artificial general intelligence tier robots were real. They could think and feel for themselves and had emotions. Is that sort of thing. I think that both of them are trying to go beyond the mundane in a way that's appealing, and I see the appeal in both. You know, there's like, what if you, sit back and read a Bible passage and say, what if that was real? What if that was feasible? What if this Archangel Michael was actually something that existed? That would be really cool. And a lot of people do believe that exists. I'm not saying they're wrong, but it's one of those speculative things where you have faith that that's real or you don't. And a lot of people are like, the technological singularity will never happen. These future technologies are not feasible. That's just fantasy. People have called, the singularity the rapture for the nerds. Basically, anything that isn't grounded in the real world and the mundane of a here and now, and of what people consider like common sense modernism is seen as too fanciful, is seen as too romantic, but I love getting lost in that sort of thing. So that's cool. I wonder if I scared Julia Lee. Maybe I offended her. Um, but yeah. I like the fanciful. I like the imaginative. It's cool to think about what if angels were real and exploring that from a place that is grounded in fantasy and isn't, based purely in orthodoxy. And I think that that's part of what's fun about fantasy. And so I like tabletop games even though I haven't played many, I've always wanted to play these things because I like fantasy. I like, um, races and characters of dubious realness, such as like God or angels or elves, and things that not everyone believes in. And coming from them based on imagination and exploration rather than just, orthodoxy. Which is why I've taken to I like telling thinking about stories from like what the underdogs would be. Like demons. Like what if demons could be nice? My brain has come up with like several ideas over the years. I think is like a way to deal with the fact that I grew up in a very Christian background. Um and I've had a lot of bad experiences growing up in the church. So I feel like my brain's coping mechanism with, what I saw as people doing evil things in the name of holiness. A cathartic way for me to explore that is to make like kind, misunderstood, persecuted demon characters. I've come up with several ideas in my head over the years of like, what if not all angels were good and what if not all demons were bad? Which is a very heretical idea. But in my terms of my own personal fantasy with dealing with these like ancient mythologies like Judaism, Christianity, etc., is to one of my ways of like dealing with that like pain of people who are very godly being very cruel towards me and my own peers. I've sort of taken to, I think, creating fantasy in my head about demon characters, and I've thought of several of them over the years, ever since, I was imagining and grappling with the trauma of being abused by a lot of Christians throughout my life. Like, very pious, godly people who had, let's say, very orthodox beliefs on Judeo Christianity. So, just I think as a way of kind of wrestling with those spiritual ideas, with those fantastical ideas that were ingrained into my head. Um, it's a way of dealing with that. Hey, you missed a lot of interesting talk about Disgaea and how I feel about demons. Welcome. And so for me, for many years, I think I dealt with, the evils of godly people who abused me in my life, um, by creating demons as kind underdog characters, creating like these characters in my head. And I kind of came up with the idea for Maria among several like demon OCs or whatever in my head that have been floating around. Specifically, the idea for Maria comes not just from my trauma of being like mistreated by godly people and being, told, Dungeons and Dragons is Satan, gay people are Satan, sex outside of marriage is Satan, all this different stuff, and just, being abused by quite a few people in my life under the guise of that. Um, Sort of made me like internalize the idea of like maybe demons aren't so bad. Maybe they're just like the underdogs in a holy war is sort of my brain because if I felt like a demon myself and was treated as a demonic child by like abusive older figures in my life in church and other groups, um it made me feel like a demon. And so coming to terms with, that part of mythology and its effect on my life, the Judeo-Christian mythology. Um, I did create over the years many different like imaginative demon OCs in my head, like characters and like imaginative ideas. Maria is just one of them, and she used to not have a name. The way I got to specifically Maria was that I started reaching a point in my life where I was getting banned for expressing myself on the internet, like getting banned from VRChat, getting banned from PayPal, um, and also interfacing with like the big like explosion of isekai as a genre. Like, I started thinking like, wow, isekai is a really big genre, and I watched a few isekai anime and read a few manga. I was like, I need to get into like the light novels as well for inspiration, you know. I shouldn't just like copy a paragraph, but like, you know, study how it works, study how these light novel authors are breaking down their fantasy stories for like isekai or fantasy or whatever, so I can learn from them and write my own story that's like a light novel. And so I start off from the paradigm of, well, you know, isekai is a big genre that allows you to ask the question, what if you got hit by like a truck and died and then were reborn in a fantasy world? What if you put on a VR headset and got stuck in the fantasy MMO? What if you like got pulled some way supernaturally to a different alternate universe with fantasy creatures and things? You know, like however it ends up happening in Re:Zero. I don't remember how it happened in the Zero. I think he was like just reading like a magazine or something. And then suddenly he was like, what if you like woke up? You don't have to get hit by truck cut. What if you just like woke up in a different, you know, fantasy world? Which I don't see anything fundamentally wrong with isekai. I know it's like kind of the new punching bag for anime fans. Like back when I was younger, like shows like K-On! And Lucky Star used to be like people's punching bag. People would be like, oh, though this is just moe blob garbage. And cute girls doing cute things. Where's the plot? Where's the conflict? There's no story here. You can't write a story with no story. And I do need to read. I read some of the light novel of Day Zero, but it was just specifically some of the subsections about Felix or Ferris. What's wrong with Moe Anime? Nothing according to me. I just remember people would like attack Moe Anime back in the early like 2005 to 2010 and so on. Like it was definitely a punching bag for people who wanted their anime to have violence and badassery and plot twists and whatever they wanted. Um but I started thinking in my head, sometimes I like when I have trouble falling asleep, I'll lay in bed and I'll let my imagination run wild and think of what if scenarios. And sometimes it's hard for me to fall asleep. Like, I've often had, for the longest time, a form of insomnia. Like, sometimes it can be 2 to, like, 6 hours just laying in bed trying to fall asleep, especially if I'm trying to keep a normal sleep schedule. So, one of the things I would think about is some of these like scenarios. Like would I write in terms of of a fantasy story about angels and demons? Well, if I was trying to, you know, write my own story like Constantine, what would be my own take on Devil May Cry? What would be my own take on something like Disgaea? What would be my own take on something like that time I got reincarnated as a slime, or Day Zero, or Goblin Slayer, or in recent times like Soso no Freiren, or for an old example, Record of Lodos War. You know, what would I do if I woke up in that world tomorrow? What would I do? Or what would be my own concept of an isekai if these other people could write light novels like the Zero, or that time I got reincarnated as a slime, or Ascendance of a Bookworm, or whatever. What would my ideas be? If they can do it, I can probably write a light novel too if I practice. And so what are the fantasy ideas that have been floating in my head for decades? Since I'm a millennial and I'm old. Um and I started to think, based on the ideas I had floating in my head about like demons, or people are reincarnating as a slime or other things, like what would it be interesting to be reincarnated as? What sort of thing did I feel like as a demon then versus a demon now, as someone who felt demonized by the adults in my life a lot of the times? And I felt, especially after a lot of time in VR chat and like struggling with, the way places are just really cracking down on sexuality, like Gumroad, PayPal, VR chat, anywhere else you can think of, and all that controversy. MasterCard is really cracking down to the point where it's even like running Pixiv. So like I kind of related to like, well, I want to be a nice person, but in comparison to like what is considered wholesome, I almost feel like a demon, and specifically almost like a succubus. Like, what if I was like born tomorrow and it wasn't from some, JRPG or isekai or fantasy story that I've read about? What if I didn't wake up tomorrow in Lord of the Rings, or Record of Lodoss War, or Final Fantasy 14, or these other games and stories I've played? What if it was just like my own ideas, my own amalgamations, my own remix of religion, mythology, tradition, all these different ideas that we pull from? And it was like, well, what if I was reborn, or someone was reborn, because it doesn't have to be self-insert. A lot of people think that's cringy, but it was like a jumping off point, laying in bed for several hours. I would just think, all right, what would I isekai as? What could I isekai as? What would it be like to isekai as, an elf? Or what would it be like to isekai as this? And eventually I came upon thinking about, what if I isekai'd as a demon? What would I do? Like, society would hate me for being a demon. What if I was, a succubus? There was a lot of hentai being written about like succubus characters at the time. It was like, well, like like one of my favorite anime was about a succubus girl, and that was banned from TV tropes. It was considered so bad. So what if I was, like Lot from Latte no Omocha? What if I was reborn as a succubus girl like her? How would I deal with a society that probably wouldn't accept me, because I would be considered like lewd by default? How would I have to deal with that with such a vampiric desire? It would have me considered a monster. I would go from being considered, a monster in the real world to a monster in the other world. And how would I like deal with the fact that I would want to get along? So I kind of played around with different ideas. It was like, what if it was me? What if it was some girl? What if it was like a salary man, like it was in Tanya the Evil? Like, what if it was Tanya the Evil, but instead, it was the nice person who was abused by his boss instead of the psychopath who got like reincarnated by being X? What if it was the one who he like abused? But if it was just like a nice salary man who was just like really frustrated, you know, went home and fantasized about being a cute anime girl and it never happened, and then he got like isekai'd. But the catch is, you didn't get it just isekai'd as a cute girl, you got isekai'd as a succubus, and everyone hates you and wants to like marginalize you and throw you out of their villages and burn you at the stake and stuff like that. So it's like, no, I've not seen Overlord, but I want to watch that. That seems like another good fantasy isekai type thing. Um, I'm open minded to that genre. And so my brain was like, well, what if it didn't have to be isekai? What if I just like wrote the character who's not a self insert isekai? What if it's just fantasy? Because, isekai and the resurgence of isekai is also just kind of brought straight up fantasy back to the forefront of like the anime and manga industry. Like, some people are just now like just writing straight, not isekai fantasy again. That's also a returning genre of like Japanese fiction and growing in the manga and light novel sphere. And so I was started to gravitate away from just isekai, is like, what if this is just her own character who is influenced by my personality and my own struggles coming to terms with an American society that is very puritanical, with an internet that is increasingly puritanical, and my own insecurities about, you know, being considered demonic for having really distasted by people like sexual feelings, or by being LGBT, or being like pagan interested or pagan curious as a teenager. All those things that made me feel like demonic made me like think like, but also someone who really cares about like kindness and tolerance. It was like, how do I like square that circle? So I was like, well, what if I don't just isekai myself? What if I just imagine, what if I was just reincarnated, but I didn't have most of my memories, but I had like a similar personality? How would a person who is like me, maybe a more idealized version of myself, who's more empathetic and more kind and just a really great person, deal with being born in a fantasy world as a demon, whether a succubus or not a succubus? How would she like find acceptance in a world that hates demons? How would she find a way to protect those around her? Well, I started thinking like, well, obviously she would become a healer. That's her personality. She would be a healer. I would be a healer. I wouldn't have to, go onto an operating table and fiddle around with people's intestines and things and get freaked out by all the blood and gore of being a doctor. I could cast magic, and I would be able to fulfill that childhood dream of being a doctor, which was kind of crushed by how squeamish and freaked out by that sort of stuff I was. And then I would be able to just like help people as a healer if healing magic was real. So I started thinking like, okay, I would be a healer, or she would be a healer, or they would be a healer, and start like imagining like, what if I won over a smaller village, one that hated me at first, and then there would be like a raid of actual evil demons and stuff, and I was able to ward them off with my succubus magic powers, my demonic powers being used for good and wholesome, morally good reasons, and slowly start to win over the town. Hey, BGR. And so, yeah, that was one of like several ideas that would kind of sit around in my head when I was either laying in bed trying to sleep or had nothing to do and was just bored. And so later, when Julia was like hyper fixated on Sword World and really wanted to get me into it, I remember she talked about it almost all the way as we walked into town, bought stuff at stores, I think we went to like a store where we bought some Mexican like desserts. And we also went to like a bar and like had a stout beer and a nice deep dish pizza. And that whole time, both in the way into town and on the way home, Julia was talking about Sword World. And I was just kind of, my brain was like half there. Flan? Did you get flan? Flan? Flan. No, we didn't get flan. I love flan though. It was just like sweets. It was like random desserts. I don't remember exactly what we ate. And I think Julia doesn't hear me right now. It was like the stuff you can get at a grocery store. It was like Mexican grocery desserts. Julia likes those. This was before she realized she had celiac. And we had a deep dish pizza. We went for a stout beer. And that whole time, she was talking about Sword World. And at first, I was kind of lukewarm about it. I was like, I wanted to get into it just to be into something that my new roommate Julia was into. Like, obviously, I wanted to have things in common with her. I was like, I don't know much about Sword World. I'm not someone who's played a lot of tabletop games, but I'm meant to get into them. And she would talk about like deep mechanical stuff, which my brain is not very good with. Like, I would hear things about like different classes and how you could like take on these different feats, and my brain was like starting to go, "Oh, I'm overloaded with technical information and metagaming, like, you know, actual smart stuff." And my brain is like, I'm like mind glazed, eyes glazed over, and I just like tried to keep up as we were like walking around. And she was really passionate. She was like hyper fixated on it at the time, I guess you could see. And even like the next day, like we were like sleeping in the same bed together sometimes. And I would like wake up and she would like want to talk about Sword World for like 2 hours straight. And then I finally like developed like a serious connection. I was like, well, I probably can't be a robot, but can I be like a fairy? And she's like, well, you can be like, a robot. There's like these rune folk. I don't think you can be a fairy. If you can, I haven't read about it yet. So you'll have to think about like something else if you want to be lore friendly. And then my brain was like around and I'm like, what are some other things that have been on my brain for the past few years? Like what is some like characters that I would want to bring to this world since she was trying to get me to create my character? I'm gonna need to get myself something to drink. Um so then what I came up with, I'll be right back in just a moment. I'm gonna get something to drink. So, some reason it just kind of it shot into my mind that I'd been thinking of. I didn't even have a name for her at the time. It was just like, succubus character, other demon character ones have been in my mind. So I was like, wait, well, if I can't be a fairy, but I can be a fairy tamer. I can be a robot, but I can't be a robot fairy. What if could I be a demon? Mm. I was like, could I be a succubus? Um, and Julia was like, yeah, you can actually be a succubus, or at the very least, there's like succubus characters, and you can play a barbarous. You'd be a barbarous. I'm like, a barbarous? I don't want to be a barbaric character. I don't want to be barbaric. I don't know what you mean by barbarous. Like, I want to be a nice girl. I want to be like, I want to be lawful good, not barbaric. And Julia's like, oh, that's the good thing about this story. There's no lawful good. I'm like, oh? So she doesn't like alignments that much. And I was confused at first. I didn't realize barbarous was supposed to be like a designation of like a group of races that just doesn't automatically equal barbaric. That's just what they're called. And so we sort of makeshifted some of the actual playable barbarous, like Lamia and so forth, and adapted essentially the Lamia, which does have a character sheet, into a makeshift succubus playable character. And then I was thinking of a name, and I thought, what is something that's really like holy and associated with the Bible? Because I wanted someone who sounded like holy. And Ruth was one that came to my mind, as well as some other, like, figures of like the early church who were like, holy figures or ones in the Bible. I wanted to go with. And Mary seemed on the nose, but the more I thought about it, it's like, well, Maria. Maria sounds really good. And I for a while I was just like, that's just gonna be a working name until I think of like another, woman, feminine name that is associated with, the Judeo Christian mythos. And it just kind of stuck and stayed. I ended up staying with Maria and realized there's actually several Maria characters that I like Maria from Harvest Moon and so forth. And so it was like, yeah, I kind of wanted her to be like Maria from Harvest Moon. Why not just keep the name Maria? Like there was a lot of characters who like influence her in terms of like personality, such as, for instance, Flan from Disgaea, which also eventually did lead to me playing Disgaea again, and I got really into that. And like Flan was an influence for Maria's personality. I wanted to make her a really morally good, wholesome, pure person who is also a succubus and has a massively high sex drive and has to, suck some sort of sexual essence in order to live and deal with that conundrum. And I really latched onto that because I felt like I related to this concept of wanting to be really wholesome and really kind and really sweethearted, but also being a fundamentally lewd person as well. Is allowed me to like I felt this kind of psychological catharsis. And then I really got into Sword World from then on. I was like, I want to get into this. I want to express this character. And then it just became a matter of how am I going to express this character? Should I write the story? Should I when are we going to get around to role playing? I would always look forward to our role playing sessions because I really, really wanted to be Maria. And now it's just like I have this character in my head and this story I have in my head that I need to realize and get more inspiration for. Like, I need to figure out the name of the villages. I need to figure out the name of her, of the church and the religious order she's a part of to become a healer. I need to think of like, oh, thanks for that, Pats. I need to think of adversaries, um, consequences, conflicts, um, ways to develop her as a character, but for more than anything, just as a person who has a life. I needed to come up with names of other, you know, members of the church. Who are her lovers going to be? Who are her sex partners going to be named, if not lovers? Who are her who are her parents? Who are her parental figures? Who are the people who are adult figures in her life before she grows up? Who are going to be her peers when she is an adult? Is how is she going to survive? How is she going to convince people to teach her healing magic? It was a lot of things that I've been kind of like going through and trying to figure this all out. And unfortunately, so far, in trying to collect these thoughts and writing it, it's been more tell than it has been show. Because I'm also just trying to come up with these names and these locations and these stories and these timelines myself and sort of like crystallize these amorphous, quantum blobs of concepts and feelings and little dots in the brain of different like things that my brain is pulled from and solidify them. Oh, I would love help with this. I would love help with this. Sometime I'd like to sit down and like just look at the story I've written so far with Julia and like brainstorm ideas. But that hasn't quite happened yet. Um, but I've also been looking towards video games and tabletop role playing games as ways to like at least express a flavor of this character. And so whenever a game gives me like a character creator, I've been trying to make Maria. I've been trying to see if I can put as close to my idea of Maria into this video game as possible. And it hasn't gotten me very far. It makes me wish that I could come across a video game that gave me the possibility to write my own story and roleplay my own idea of a character. Oh, does Code Vein? I don't even know if I have Code Vein. I might actually have that. I don't know if I ever did. Still not even downloaded yet. Why is it so slow? Did the 5G ever return, Julia?
Don't know.
Oh, I do have Code Vein.
I'm pretty sure if you
It's
check the
you?
wireless settings, you can see that it's turned on.
Sorry. No, it just says Hobbit Hole. Oops. Oh, shoot. I just turned off the internet. Fudge. Oh, fudge. I just disconnected myself. No, it just says Hobbit Hole. It doesn't say Hobbit Hole 5G.
Well, it didn't come back.
We need to fix that. Are you irritated? Sounds like you're irritated.
I know it.
A Trinidadian nerd says hi, Big Sis. Yeah, we need to fix the 5G. That's something I should do before my next stream. So yeah, if I can even get into that, do I have like my Google Doc? I have several Google documents around like my idea. If I'm like logged in. I need to use the bathroom again soon, but I can show you since there's new people here since I showed this on stream. I remember Neutral Trauma or someone else was telling me that this would be controversial. Go to docs. Please tell me it's not going to force me to log in again. I have a huge sheet that I wrote just for Sword World, and then I have like my own story that's not like limited to Rajaha and so forth. I want to learn about the lore of as many tabletop role playing games as possible, not least of which Sword World, because I want to give myself as many possibilities as possible to roleplay and explore this character idea. It's not the only idea for a character I have, or one that's like near and dear to my heart, but it's definitely the one that I've explored the most recently. Um, is it gonna? Why is it being like this? Google Docs. I think it's because it's downloading and I don't have the 5G connection. I shouldn't have started stream until I fix this. I think Julie is kind of annoyed with me over the 5G, or at least her voice sounds annoyed. Maybe it's just reading too much into tone. She's just not been feeling well lately in general. I'm sure that this would be able to work better. I'd be able to multitask better, and it'd probably already be downloaded if I was on the 5G connection. Uh, what?
Talking about how we're gonna need to get a new canister soon. It's empty.
Oh, well, shoot.
I'm sorry, you fall in love with it, and then we're going to Meyer tomorrow anyway.
Oh,
so
are we?
go on.
I really hope that we will have a chance to have the vehicle on April or yeah, April 1st. That's like
About it with my mom tomorrow, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I see. Do you think it's like dangerous to drive that far?
I don't know about dangerous, but I don't want to be driving that far with not my car.
I understand. It's not wanting to do this. I can't even get to my Google Docs. I really need to fix my internet connection. I am in a bad spot because of no 5G. We need to fix the 5G as soon as we can.
Try rebooting the router.
In the middle of stream?
That's the only way I know that you're gonna do it.
I'll do it after I end the stream.
Did you buy Dragon's Dogma 2?
No. Please do not worry.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's taking forever. I may just have to play something else in the meantime while it's doing that because I thought it wasn't going to take forever. But since I'm not on 5G, the internet is apparently trash. What?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought I heard you say something. Something about trash. Have I said anything to upset you? I can mute the microphone. Is that a no? Oh yeah, she's not happy with me. She's not even responding. Damn. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute it. Never mind, everything's fine. She just wants to enjoy her game in peace. I do own Dragon's Dogma 1, but it's also gonna take forever to... Oh. I'm not a Mary. I don't know why Google Docs is, like, just not gonna load, but it must just be the internet. And that stinks, because I wanted to, like, show y'all the thing. Maybe if I put on, Google Chrome. Google Docs. Playing the Steam servers. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. It's just the Steam servers. Um, is it multiplayer? I'm not aware that it's multiplayer. Internet is just not doing well right now. Is the stream at least working well? Because the download seems to just be like slowing to a crawl. Maybe I should pause it just long enough to open my Google document and hope for the best. And then once I have it open, I can read from it. If it'll let me. I paused it. I paused it. What's the hold up? The heck? Is Google Docs down? That is so weird. It's just like it doesn't want me going on Google Docs right now. The internet should be like recovering from the download speed since I paused it. So why is it doing this? I just really don't want me showing that story on stream. The fates are against me. The heck? Is there an issue with Google servers? Maybe I should have backed this up somewhere other than Google. Because that's just not working. Alright, I'm gonna have to go use the bathroom. That's weird. That's really weird. That is very alienating. I just wanted to show the ID on stream that I'd written down. And it's like, nope, no Google documents for you. And here's an idea, one of many ideas of what Maria, my OC, might look similar to. Since I've been talking so much about Maria. There she is. Without clothes. Generally, I think that she will cover up. Is like a thing. I don't think she will be naked very often. I think that she will be covered in robes, in religious robes. But that just happens to be one image I have of her. Can't show the whole image on Twitch, but there's some image of Maria, of one of the ideas I think that she might look sort of like. I gotta go use the bathroom. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for taking so long. I don't know what's going on with Google or even the internet. I don't know if it's just this computer specifically is like maxed itself out. I don't know. But it's not wanting to go to Google Docs, and it would be nice to do something while it's downloading that. Can't lie. Oh, goodney. Yeah, I didn't realize Code Vein had multiplayer. I can give it a try. But yeah, I definitely have Dragon's Dogma 1. Never got very far, but I've heard very glowing reviews and just positive reception for Dragon's Dogma. I should have downloaded this while I was doing chores earlier. What little I was actually doing them. There's a lot of chores to be doing. um yeah, I don't know. Like I might be able to go somewhere else and just like test if other things are working. Like how is YouTube doing? It's just like the internet on this thing is slow to a crawl. It's downloading this. It's going at 6 megabits per second, which is not a lot. Yeah, everything's loading slow on this thing. Everything is. I might want to like restart this. This is loading. Was it? Did you gift me Dragon's Dogma? I thought I bought that years ago. Oh, you mean Code Vein. That's possible. Yeah, it's still waiting to load.
Something.
What?
Sorry, never mind.
No, please.
I was gonna say maybe Steam is slow because everyone and their mother is downloading Dragon Dogma 2 right now.
Yeah, maybe. Apparently. Oh, people sure liked the first one. Could do like the Sword World intro thing before, which seems to be a video I can return to constantly because people will come to my streams every time I mention Sword World and, also be new and not know what Sword World is. Oh yeah, I can do like a little quick video, like, um, since I've been into Sega recently, I can like do a little watch. 204 games is not a lot, but there's some gems here. If it'll load. I don't think it'll run even a regular video very well. I just think that the bandwidth is just kind of messed up without the because it just loaded YouTube, so it's still struggling to load the video. The thing is that it's streaming from that. I mean, I guess it's been on since I started stream. I turned it on stream, so it's not been on very long.
The computer, reboot the router, one way or another, you're gonna have to reboot something.
If I reboot the router, I'm gonna have to say goodbye to stream. I'm sorry, everyone. I know I never got around to what it was. What?
Just for a little bit.
Yeah, but I'll have to end stream to do that. Alright. I hope that it still remembers how much I downloaded of the game. I hope I don't have to start it all over. Will it remember how much I downloaded of Dragon's Dogma? Julia? Will it remember how much I downloaded of Dragon's Dogma if I restart? Okay, good.
Go to Steam? And you can hit pause download.
I did.
You'll be fine.
Alright, restarting the computer. Hopefully it helps. If not, I may just have to say goodbye to stream and come to terms with the fact my internet isn't good enough right now without fixing the 5G problem. Alright, now it says no internet. Okay, it just took a moment. Let's see if I can get this to, see if it runs at a decent speed. That's better. So maybe they just, like, clogged up the internet. I don't know. Let's see if I can go to Google Docs. Google Doc. Sure, Daddy and Nerd is still here. I can, like, show that off and talk about it right here now. Go to Docs. Please. Please load. Please load. Still being kinda slow, so maybe Google Docs is having issues. I'm using Wi-Fi because we don't have the ability with a cat around to enjoy Ethernet. So unfortunately, it's just plain old, not very good, Wi-Fi. So I will, I need to open more than one is the thing. That one's like from Sword World. That's one of several Sword World documents. Um, no connection. Wait, what? Okay, that's loading. A bit slow. Sure. Uh, leave me alone. Dismiss. Dismiss. I don't need that there showing up the whole time. Can I exit out of it? Cancel. Go away. Go away. Check. Okay, there we go. um, what's wrong? Oh, bless you. Here, let's go ahead and load up that Sega CD VGL. So while we're waiting for that to download, I can, maybe listen to some Dungeon Synth while it's doing that. I don't know. Record of Lodos. I'll actually Sword World. Sword World SFC. I hope Julia's doing okay. She's sighing a lot. Well, the internet connection on this thing is still being a bit blah. I would love to be able to use an Ethernet cable in this house. I'm really sad that I can't. And I don't know why the internet is being so bad on this right now. Right, that's most of the no connection. What do you mean no connection? Are they updating? I don't think so. I don't understand what's going on, but I may just have to end stream and realize my internet is just really bad today. I might have to find a way to get Ethernet working, but I don't think that Julia will ever allow that. Oh, this is just pathetic. Bad internet stream. Playback speed. Let's try this. It'll significantly make it shorter. It's unavailable. Yep, yep. Is it back to downloading now? Okay. It's gonna take forever to download. At least it remembers where it was. Trinidadian nerd, are you there? You are there. Yeah, our cat likes to chew on things. Their cat is very, like, destructive. Hi, Miji. Alright, since you're there, Trini. So this might just be, no, it's 32 minutes of it. So here's some of the information of Succubus Maria. This is like the original art of her trying to connect. What in all heck? What in the all heck? I may have to like download this. This is, well, congrats, Michi. Unfortunately, I don't have this. Oh, that's really distracting seeing that right there. I kinda hate this and just want to end stream because this has been complete garbage. Complete garbage. Like, unforgivably bad garbage. Oh, wait, is it gone now? Anyway, this was the first, like, concept, like, art of her. And still, in many ways, my favorite. I just don't like the outfit. I think that's too showy for what she would regularly wear. I don't think she would wear this outfit. But this definitely, like, fits the way I think her face and her hair would be. Yes, she is a loli character. I like the way the shoulders are. I think the hips are a little wide for my taste, and I don't like the outfit, but everything else is good. Hair is perfect. Eyes are good. Facial expression is adorable. If I had money, which I don't, I would commission people to work on art of her. But I don't have money. I don't have the money. It bothers me that she only has 3 fingers here. That kind of gives away how this was created. Oh? Oh, what? Oh, yeah, a friend of mine who does AI art asked me if I wanted to have an AI art made of something, like of little robot fairy or something. One of my friends in Discord messages. I know people absolutely hate AI art nowadays, and like hate people who use it, but I don't have the money to commission, and I'm an absolutely horrible artist. And I have several friends who use AI art, so I asked when one of them was in my DMs and asked me if I would like them to like make some stuff. I was like, well, I have this concept of Maria. Can I give you a bunch of those ideas and see what you come up with? And so this definitely has a lot of what I would like. But obviously having the 3 fingers shows those things are pretty bad with hands. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of people who won't forgive anyone who is involved in AI art. I've seen people give like death threats over AI art online. People are pretty like viciously angry at the existence of it. I think people in general don't like AI, and like it's a little too much future technology and close to home for a lot of people. People are like afraid they'll lose their jobs. Now, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, don't use AR, pick up a pencil or I'll kill you sort of people. I've seen a lot of nasty death threats online over this stuff. But yeah, one of my friends DM'd me who uses AI art a lot in my DMs and asked me if I would like anything since they have like some of the stuff on their computer to like render this stuff. I was like, well, I have this OC I've been thinking of. Would you like to help me with that? And then one of my friends created this for me in my DMs. But this was before I realized that this will make you a target online of a lot of harassment and boycotts because people aren't very forgiving to this stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to make art because I'm also an AI. I'm a robot with artificial intelligence enhancements, so I'm apparently not allowed to make art. What? Exactly, yeah. Thanks. Thanks. I mean, obviously, if I draw, that also counts as AI art since I'm a robot, right? That makes it AI art, I assume. I think it's more that my body is artificial than my brain, but close enough. I mean, I can try to draw, but it will be absolute garbage. I need a few thousand hours to draw something half as good looking as this.
You know, many of the people who hate AI art are the same people who are like, if we had intelligent robots, shouldn't they be treated as humans?
I don't know. I doubt it. I get the feeling that people who hate AI are just, you know, against artificial intelligence in general. I don't know.
Speaking of, I wonder if Hatsu's there and I just triggered him again.
I don't know. If I was this good at drawing, I would do this. I've never used AI art myself. I just have friends who have like these things they've downloaded from like GitHubs and other websites where they can use their own GPUs to do that. People are like, you're burning down forests in order to make AI art, but that's not the case. This person was made with my friend's own GPU to render this. Pretty sure that's not burning down a forest. That was like a little bit of time on their own computer. I don't know.
It wasn't burning down forests. It was burning down uranium reserves.
I see. I think it's very personal for a lot of people because maybe people who aren't against the existence of artificial intelligence and aren't against the existence of robots and other future technologies may personally hate this because they're artists themselves and feel threatened by it. I don't know if they would all admit that's their reasoning, but I get the feeling that a lot of people just feel, you know, threatened by it. It's like one of those piracy is a lost sale thing. It's like, well, if you use this to create a piece of AI art, that means you're not giving an artist money. And I don't have the money to give an artist money, but basically the idea is you don't get to have art unless you can pay for it. It's sort of the same logic of you don't get to play a video game unless you can pay for it. Right? That's the same sort of logic. Like, if you can't afford a piece of art, you don't get to enjoy it because it's like piracy, but for artists. I think is how it's viewed. I think that's how it's viewed by people.
I mean, another thing I'd like to point out is that AI art will never replace a human being, no matter how much people think it will.
I'm not trying to replace humans. Please don't kill me for being a robot. Please don't kill me for being a robot. I'm gonna die. Up, of course. Yep, didn't load enough. This thing is just the internet connection is garbage right now. Look at how slow it's going.
So, going ahead and reboot the router.
Okay, I'm gonna have to end stream for who knows how long. I'm sorry. Stream is over. I'm really sorry. I'll finish this conversation later. I don't know how long, but streams. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to end stream.